Special teams have been a very big problem for the Giants. Among other problems, certainly their return teams, their coverage teams. On the other side of the coin, the Bears have been terrific on special teams. Daniel Manning will run back kicks, and if you saw the game on Monday night, you know that Devin Hester was such a key part of that in returning punts, one for a touchdown and the other to set up a touchdown. So on a cool night, temperature is now 59 degrees on this third night of October. Lawrence Tynes puts it in the air, and we're underway at the Meadowlands at the 15-yard line. This is Manning with a good run back up past the 35, and he steps out of bounds at around the 40-yard line. So good field position for the Chicago Bears as we meet the offense.
Jay Cutler, Vanderbilt University.
Matt Forte, Tulane University.
Brandon Monomaliuna, Arizona.
Devin Hester, the U.
Johnny Knox, Abilene Christian.
Greg Olson, the U.
Franco Miel, Tennessee Tech.
Roberto Garza, Texas A&M Kingsville.
Olin Kreutz, Washington.
Lance Lewis, LB Landry High School.
Kevin Schaefer, Tulsa.
The ball at the 39-yard line for Jay Cutler with 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions over the first 3 games. And before he goes to the air, we have a flag for a false start.
False start, number 68, offense. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Carl Cheffers, that's Frank Omiyale, who is playing left tackle. He normally plays on the other side, but Chris Williams is down tonight again. So Omiyale gets the start and gets the penalty.
And this offensive line for Lovie Smith has really been shuffled. They struggled early on when Chris Williams went down, but seemed to settle down last week.
On 1st and 15, they run a delay, and the Bears trying to get their running game on track. Matt Forte to the 37. No bigger deal last year than when Jay Cutler came over to Chicago and the town went wild. It wasn't a good start for him. He threw 4 interceptions on opening night, a Sunday nighter at Green Bay. Then the team got hot. But then they wound up with a mark of 7-9. He didn't have a good year. He's the first to admit it. He has a new offensive coordinator. We'll talk a lot about Mike Martz tonight and feels a whole lot better about 2010. Devin Hester lines up now in the backfield, and they flare him out, and he takes the swing pass, and that's a great one-arm tackle by Corey Webster. 123, not letting the other out of his grasp. Third down.
Well, the Bears come out with 3 receivers to the right side and then are going to just try and flip the ball out to Devin Hester and make him a punt returner here. Just get the ball in space, and you expect him to be able to make the first guy miss, but Corey Webster, that's terrific.
3rd down and 10. Opening series of the game. This time they flank Hester wide to the left. Forte is the back. He stays in the block. Cutler under pressure. And Cutler gets taken down to the 34-yard line by Osi Umenyiora. So the Giants, despite those penalties, despite missing Kiwanuka, a very good defensive first series.
And Jason Pierre-Paul on the outside of your screen there is going to get the early pressure working against Kevin Schaefer. Cutler has to step up and through. And there's Osi Umenyiora, who has been the leading sacker on this Giants team 5 of the last 6 years. The only time he wasn't was the year he was hurt.
Brad Maynard to kick. Darius Renato came over at the beginning of the year from Minnesota. Lets it bounce at the 22, juggles the ball, and is lucky to recover it back at the 16. He's been struggling, and he almost lost his job right there. Giants offense coming out onto the field. Let's take a look.
Eli Manning, Ole Miss.
Ahmad Bradshaw, Marshall.
Madison Hedgecock, North Carolina. Steve Smith, Southern Cal.
Hakeem Nicks, North Carolina.
Kevin Boss, Western Oregon.
Dave Deal, University of Chief Illinois.
Rich Soybert, Western Illinois.
Adam Coates, Oregon State.
Chris Snee, Boston College.
Khalil McKenzie, Penn State.
McKenzie losing his cool last week, couple of personal fouls against Tennessee. On a roll to his right, Manning hit as he throws, and the pass is underthrown and incomplete. intended for Steve Smith. He was on a roll. Tim Jennings was covering on the play, and Julius Peppers almost got to Manning before he released it.
Well, one thing you know when you play against the Chicago Bears, they're going to play so hard downhill with their linebackers that they're going to just all the time when you show run, they're going to attack. So you have to go play action. You have to go bootleg. And here Steve Smith was wide open down the field. And Jennings able to recover because the ball wasn't thrown that well.
Peppers getting there an instant late, 2nd and 10. Quick flip to Smith, and he gets taken down immediately by Jennings at the 23-yard line. And let's take a look at Peppers, who was probably the most coveted free agent acquisition of the offseason.
And Julius Peppers is allowed to go to either side that he wants. It is at his discretion. He will start the game by going left and right, and then sometime in the second half, just pick the guy that he thinks he has the easiest path against and sort of stay on that side.
3rd and 3. And a little toss to Bradshaw, and he moved in behind Boss, who had set up on the right side, making that the strong side, but not enough to pick up the first down. So the Giants come up a yard shy, and they'll punt. And that means Devin Hester. The last time Hester was in New York across the parking lot at the old stadium back in '06 on a Sunday night. At the end of the half, there was a missed field goal. He took it 8 yards into the end zone and ran it back for a 108-yard touchdown. Matt Dodge, the Giant rookie, drops it. And Dodge, who's had all kinds of trouble, gets it away. Hester's going to let it go. Flags all over the place, and the Giants down into the 31-yard line. So Dodge, and if anybody had a sleepless night last night, it's the rookie Dodge, who's had 2 really rough games and a decent night in Indianapolis. Here's Jeffers.
Ineligible downfield on the kicking team, number 54. That 5-yard penalty will be added to the end of the return. Timeout.
And the worst thing was, Al, he could have walked for the first down. He kicked it when he just had to run 5 yards to get the first down.
All he was thinking about was getting out of Dodge at that point. Manhattan, lower Manhattan, and the shot right there is across the Hudson we come. The Bears with their second series, and that's a quick flip, and they're doing a lot of that lately to Earl Bennett for a gain of 7. Here's the Giant defense.
Justin Tuck, Notre Dame.
Barry Cofield, Northwestern.
Chris Canty, Wahoo Wah.
OCU Minora, University of Troy.
Clint Centum, Virginia.
Jonathan Goff, Vanderbilt University.
Michael Bowley, Southern Miss.
Corey Webster, LSU.
Antrell Roll, the U.
Kenneth Phillips, the U.
Terrell Thomas, USC.
Wahoo Wah, a.k.a. the University of Virginia. They swing it to Forte, and the running back, who is a good pass catcher and fits in very nicely in what Mike Martz wants to do with his offense, picks up the first down. The tackle is made by Webster.
Pretty interesting. Watch Olin Kreutz go out and through to lead this play. This is almost like a one-man running screen here. Flip it over the top and pick up the first down. Olin Kreutz, the old guy, getting it done up front. And this is such a young offensive line and reshuffled, inexperienced offensive line. Olin Kreutz makes all the line calls up front and is absolutely critical to their success.
Kreutz in his 13th year, 6 Pro Bowls for the Chicago Center. And Cutler under pressure again, and down he goes again. And that time it's Canty from Wahoo Wah, and also Justin Tuck.
I thought the biggest difference in watching the Giants play a week ago was Chris Canty playing inside here. He is just an absolute load against the run game and the pass game. And if they're going to try and block him one-on-one with Roberto Garza, they're going to have a problem. And not to mention their best defensive player, Justin Tuck, coming from the other side.
Second sack of Cutler already tonight. So the Giants, knowing with Kiwanuka out, they had to pick it up front. Have done just that early in the game. On 2nd and 19, Cutler to the 49-yard line to Bennett. And that's something Cutler does so well. He can throw almost like Brett Favre-like. Throw off balance, throw moving backwards, takes the deep drop, rolls a lot, throws from outside the pocket, can do anything.
Yeah, and he says Mike Martz has been trying to coach him up, but he said, I've been doing it my whole life, and for some reason I'm almost more comfortable throwing from strange positions. So this sort of strange marriage between Mike Martz and Jay Cutler are probably going to have a few interesting twists along the way.
And on 3rd and 10, timeout is taken here by the Chicago Bears. Now the Giants, we mentioned at the top, they've lost, going back to last year, 10 of their last 14. And during that period of time, they've given up 31.5 points a game, the most in the National Football League. And that's about 10 points a game more than on average. I mean, the average game in the league over the past couple of years, the average team scores 21 points, and the Giants have given up 31.5.
But, you know, we talk about Mike Martz, and the expectations are that, okay, it's going to take a little while to get this Bears offense together. Well, the same thing goes for Perry Fewell and this Giants defense. And watching the tapes of every one of their games, you could really see the growth from week 1 to week 3, and tonight looks even better.
3rd down and 10 after the Chicago timeout. And Cutler has time, and then the pass is flicked away at the last moment. Webster had gotten beaten by Hester. Hester was behind him, but Corey got a hand up and knocks it down, 4th down.
Now that was just a little bit underthrown there because Devin Hester had a step on Corey Webster. Nice release off the line of scrimmage, put his hand up, and if that ball's thrown out in front of him, they're going to get a touchdown from Devin Hester. Just a poor throw that time by Jay Cutler.
Maynard's second punt. Last time Renard muffed the punt, but was able to get it back. He sets up at the 10-yard line. Maynard, a one-time Giant. Good angled kick that bounces inside the 5, but scoots into the end zone for a touchback. Try to get it into the corner, just missed. Giants have it at the 20 when we come back. From the 20-yard line, the Giants now. Their second possession. Bradshaw cuts it back. And Bradshaw turns what would have been almost no gain into a first down, a gain of 11 off a block by Chris Snee, Tom Coughlin's son-in-law.
Well, the new center playing for Sean O'Hara is Adam Coates. You see him right in the middle here, working against Brian Urlacher. You also see Lance Briggs jumping to the outside, which is really what created that cutback opportunity. Good job by Bear Pasco seeing that stun and turning out on Briggs.
At the 31-yard line on first down, Bradshaw. And with the Giants, Bradshaw and Jacobs sharing the duty, but Bradshaw is the #1 guy. Let's see the Bear defense right here.
Israel Idonije, Manitoba.
Matt Twina, Oregon. Anthony Adams, Penn State. Julius Peppers, North Carolina.
Pisa Tino Isamoa, Hawaii.
Brian Urlacher, University of New Mexico.
Lance Briggs, Desert Swarm, Arizona.
Tim Jennings, Georgia.
Chris Harris, Louisiana Monroe.
Danielle Manning, Abilene Christian. Charles Tillman, the University of Louisiana.
And now they give it to Bradshaw again on an inside handoff on a first down, and Manning chasing him and finally knocks him out of bounds. And Snee again with a good block up front, and then Steve Smith downfield. Good hard running and a 20-yard gain for Bradshaw, but a flag. And the Giants already walking it back. Is it on Manningham on the outside?
There's no foul for holding on the play. The result of the play is a first down.
Throw a flag and pick it up to the delight of this crowd at the New Meadowlands Stadium.
Anytime you see a run down the field, you know your two wide receivers out here are going to get blocks. And Steve Smith, that 8th guy in the box down there, this time it was DJ Moore. He just enough of them to allow Bradshaw to go by. And one thing, and I'm all for promoting the cause here, these pink gloves do stick out a little bit. So
they do.
Wouldn't be surprised to see a few extra holding calls tonight.
And you saw Manningham with a little bit of a hold, then he put his hands up to say, I'm innocent. Jacobs is in the game, the fake to him, and then the pass is complete to Nix for about 9.5 yards, close to a first down for Hakeem Nicks, the 6'1", 215-pound receiver.
And the real key, the Giants have established a bit of a running game here so far. And if you can do that against the Bears, all of a sudden the play action that really hasn't been there so far for the New York Giants starts to look good as those linebackers attack the line of scrimmage.
Jeffers wants to bring in the chain gang. It's that close. Yellow line not official, but we're going to go out on a limb and say it's not a first down.
Yeah, Julius Peppers is not just saying hi to people. He's checking out either his wrist or his hand or his elbow or something sore, and they wanted to see his strength before they sent him back out.
So much for the yellow line. That's what we told you, it's not official. Speaking of the Bear defense, as Chris just was, lowest in the National Football League, giving up only 39.7 yards a game. And look at that average per rush, 2.1. Rod Marinelli came over last year, coached the defensive line. A couple of years ago, he was the head coach at Tampa. And he and Lovie Smith go all the way back, sharing hotel accommodations when they first were on Tony Dungy's staff back in Tampa Bay. And here is Brandon Jacobs on first down, taking the ball to the 35-yard line. So for Jacobs, a couple of years ago, he's the bull. He's the stud. He's the guy who's going to just blow you out and blow you over. And then last year, he tailed off. And then this year, he starts the season as the number 2 guy. And on opening day, he had Bradshaw carrying 20 times and Jacobs carrying 12. We saw Tom Coughlin the next week, and he says that's about the ratio I'd like to see.
Well, and Jacobs has hurt himself with some pass protection, too. He's missed a couple of blitz pickups the last few weeks and given up some sacks.
2nd and 7. Manning, a short drop, and then the pass is deflected, and almost another interception on a deflection. Manning this year was 6 picks. 5 of them have been tipped or deflected, and almost another one right there, 3rd down.
Tip passes have been awful for the Giants this year, and Charles Tillman is sort of the master of this. Don't think that was an accident that he tipped that ball up. The Chicago Bears probably work on creating turnovers more than anybody else. In practice, they don't blow the whistle, whether it takes 20, 30, 40 seconds until they strip the ball out of the running back's hands.
And it's paid off through all of Smith's tenure going back to 04. And on 3rd and 7, the pass is caught by Nicks. A spin around move to get away from Tillman, and then he's forced out of bounds at the 10-yard line.
I tell you what, this is an awesome route by Hakeem Nicks. Watch him at the top of this. As he's catching the ball, he's going to make a move. He catches, as it's coming into his hands, he ducks his shoulders to the left. The defensive back reacts that way. He spins back to the outside. That is a savvy move for a young player. Got Tillman completely. Beautiful.
Giants' #1 pick in the 09 draft out of North Carolina, 29th overall. First down, they spotted at the 12. Look out, and Manning just throws it into the ground because he saw DJ Moore, the corner, coming uncontested on a blitz. He saw it, he just threw it into the ground incomplete.
You know, it's interesting. Eli threw that one away, but I thought it had a chance. You know, see DJ Moore coming off this side, but see if Eli had lobbed this over the top, there really wasn't anybody left back there. He was going to have some blockers, and I think Bradshaw had a little room to run because Urlacher came on the blitz and nothing really back there.
2nd down and 10, the ball at the 12. Bradshaw is the back, Hicks goes in motion. They give it to Ahmad, and he stumbles as he tries to cut it back to the left. 3rd down, Mark Anderson will get credit for the tackle. Go ahead.
A lot of things going on up front now for the Chicago Bears. Of course, Tommy Harris has been such a great player, Al, over the years and was so instrumental in their Super Bowl run, but he's no longer starting. He had a really bad performance against the Dallas Cowboys, was sat out a week ago, inactive, back in there now, and he really needs to make an impression.
Harrison, also Henry Milton, number 69, along the defensive front. Empty backfield, shotgun snap, Manning throws, caught, and it's Smith who gets taken down at the 4-yard line. So it'll be a couple of yards shy of the first down with 4 minutes to go in the quarter. 4th and 2, and in comes Tynes in the field goal group.
Yeah, I think this is the right move for sure. This is just the typical Tampa 2 defense that the Bears love to play, and they're going to allow you that kind of a route inside in that situation. Nice job by David Deal on the outside against Julius Peppers, and we'll try to keep an eye on him. Don't know what he was working on over there on the sideline, but something was bothering him.
Lawrence Tynes, this will be a 22-yard field goal attempt. And the Giants get on the board on a drive that started at their 20. 3-0 New York with 3.5 to go in the quarter. That kind of looks like Andy Robustelli, Giants defensive end back in the late 50s and early 60s. Great player, great Giant teams during that era. Part of the new Ring of Honor for the Giants. NFL Hall of Famer in 1971. Kickoff fielded by Johnny Knox at the 9-yard line, and what a tackle. Coming in to just bury him is Jarris Wilkinson. So the Giants, who are not getting stellar play on their special teams, get a big pop right there on Knox. Mike Martz, mad scientist, offensive mastermind. He's been called a lot of things, mostly positive because of what he's done offensively. You can see how all of the teams he has gone to, how they have improved, especially those 99 Rams when he came in under Dick Vermeil, ran the offense, and they went to the Super Bowl. Jamarcus Webb comes in, the rookie out of West Texas A&M, 7th-round draft choice. Along the offensive front, the ball at the 21-yard line, and Forte to the outside, and he gets taken down. So the Giants off to a good start defensively tonight. Justin Tuck is there to make the tackle.
You know, it's interesting. Justin Tuck is, I think, without question, the best player on this Giants defense from the ability to do everything. And yet even Justin Tuck has had some poor plays lately, and they really need him to be a superstar. You can't say he hasn't played well. He just hasn't played great yet. And if the Giants are going to get this turned around, he has to be great.
Bears have run 9 plays, and they have 13 yards. Run a couple of stunts up front, get it to Hester on the screen, and then he gets knocked down by his own man, Edwin Williams. Knocks him down well short of the first down. We talked about Martz and what he's done, but the other thing that Martz does, because he is such a riverboat gambler in a way, take a look at that. Turnovers between 99 and 05, his teams had the most. Sacks, 5th most. 06-07 with the Lions, 2nd most in turnovers, most sacks. And then with the 49ers in 08, most in both categories. So give it and take it. He gambles a lot. He takes a lot of risks. You can say he's reckless. He says, I'm aggressive, not reckless. 3rd and 5. Cutler slings that one, and it's at the 29-yard line, almost picked off by Terrell Thomas. And it is picked off, and then he's tackled at the spot at which he intercepted the pass. So Thomas is going to get credit for the pick, and then tackled as he makes the interception.
You're going to see Greg Olsen come across, and I have no idea what Jay Cutler's watching. Perfect protection. Terrell Thomas just sitting out there in that 2-deep zone. He never saw this. He absolutely never saw that. And you talked about the combination, but Mike Martz and Jay Cutler is potentially combustible big plays, potentially combustible bad plays, and you saw it there.
Giants take over the 28-yard line. Less than 2 minutes to go in the quarter, trying to cash in. And Bradshaw runs into a pile, but picks up 3 yards with a forward lean. And there is Martz and Cutler, and the Bears right now with a total of 11 plays for 19 yards thus far in the first quarter.
And I have no idea what it is with Jay Cutler, but he doesn't have a great record playing at night. And I don't think he's won a game in prime time yet on the road. So this is a tough combination. And those early sacks, they're like sort of body blows to a boxer. They add up. They get inside your mind a little bit, and you start watching that rush instead of looking down the field. We should have seen that one. That's a really bad mistake.
On 2nd and 7, that pass into traffic. He tried to thread it to Boss. Urlacher covering on the play, and it will be 3rd and 7 for the Giants.
One of the things the Bears love to do is to pressure inside and make you think that Brian Urlacher is going to blitz. But more often than not, he shows that and then backs out of it. But he has been so athletic this year. I think you almost have to go back to 2005 when he was the Defensive Player of the Year to find the same level that he's been running around and making plays so far this year. Really excited to be back in there.
3rd down and 7. And that time Peppers comes across the line, and the play is whistled dead.
Neutral zone infraction, number 90 of the defense. His action into the neutral zone caused a reaction by the offensive player. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
And that makes it 3rd down and 2 at the 23.
Yeah, and if I were Tom Coughlin, I'd be upset that I didn't get my free play there.
Yes, I'm just thinking the same thing.
You know, because Peppers stopped on the outside, plus they had Ahmad Bradshaw over to that side, and so they would have had this picked up. He's going backwards, but I guess once McKenzie jumped, it forced him to blow the whistle at that point.
And they look for unabated to the quarterback. And when it's number 90, you're always thinking about unabated.
It always is.
3rd and 2. And that pass is too high and through the hands of Boss. The Giants get the interception and then can't get a 1st down, and will have to settle for a field goal attempt of about 38 yards.
One of the things the Giants are going to do is move Kevin Boss to get him to Julius Peppers' side. That time they fake the block on Peppers and send him out in the flat. And for professional receivers and quarterbacks, you got to be able to make that connection.
Matt Dodge will hold it. Lawrence Tynes will try to make it 6-0 from 38 yards. And that kick is no good. Bending to the left. 58 ticks left. The Bears get away with one. 3-0 Giants. Giants and Bears banging heads for 85 years. The founders, George Halas and Tim Mara. Some of the names: Red Grange, Mel Hines, Sid Luckman, the quarterback, Sam Huff for the Giants. Sweetness, of course, Bill Parcells with the 2 Super Bowl victories. The Giants and the Bears. Virginia McCaskey, daughter of George Halas, who was the coach of this team as well as the owner for 40 of those years in 4 10-year increments. Let's go back to the kick. The hold by Matt Dodge was anything but perfect. It might have had a little something to do with the fact that the kick went wide left. Here it is.
And don't forget, Matt Dodge has already fumbled a punt, and that was pretty unsteady. You want to get that thing down and turn the laces. He didn't either.
From the 28-yard line now on 1st down. They give the ball to Chester Taylor. So Forte comes out. Taylor was picked up from Minnesota. Did a great job, especially in 3rd down situations, coming in for Adrian Peterson.
But he hasn't really been much of a factor here. You know, the running game for the Bears really has not been very good at all. And Matt Forte essentially is the same kind of player that Chester Taylor is. So there's not a great need for that 3rd down back here, maybe like they had with Minnesota. And you know Minnesota's missing him right now.
2nd down and 6. Play clock running down, and as it does, you got a false start here.
False start, number 68. Offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
Franco Mayel moving over to that left tackle spot. 2nd call on him tonight.
Well, a lot of the movement up front on this offensive line has started when Chris Williams got hurt. He was supposed to be the left tackle, so they had to take Franco Mayel from right tackle to left tackle. Roberto Garza moved from right guard to left guard. Kevin Schaefer goes in. They like this Jamarcus Webb. A lot of moving parts up front, and at least so far it's showing up.
End of the quarter, the score 3-0 Giants, and Sunday Night Football from the Meadowlands resumes after these messages. Beautiful shot of the new Meadowlands Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, across from the parking lot from where the old stadium stood. Chester Taylor is the back on 2nd down and 11, and the catch is made on the outside by the tight end, Greg Olsen. Like to split him quite a bit. Terrell Thomas making the tackle. It'll be 3rd down and 7.
It's kind of interesting that when the Bears start having protection problems, Mike Martz, instead of bringing people in to block, spreads them out. He wants Cutler to be able to see what's happening, and just like in the Dallas game, when Cutler was a little unsettled, he went back to the spread sort of a look and let him make some quick throws to get his vision back where it should be.
Now he has protection in the form of Olsen and Manu Maliuna, and Cutler will roll out and he'll throw and get hit, and Kreutz comes up with it because Osi Umenyiora almost forced an interception or a turnover, and the Bears are lucky that Kreutz was right there. And Cutler is still down on one knee. Boy, did he take a shot.
And here's why you spread it out. You bring Greg Olsen in, who's much more of a receiving tight end than a blocking tight end. No way in the world he's going to be able to bring down Osi Umenyiora. And Osi got there big time. The Bears have been extremely lucky that this game isn't close to over at this point with the kind of mistakes they've been making up front blocking.
Goes into the books as a sack. 3 of them for that Giant D tonight. Maynard's high kick fielded at the 26-yard line by Renaud. He gets bottled up at the 30-yard line. Eli Manning coming in and taking over for Kurt Warner back in 04, and he had Burris, of course. He had Toomer and Shockey as his main 3, that first generation of receivers, and now he's got Steve Smith, Boss the tight end, Manningham, and Hakeem Nicks. And of course the numbers are better with these new receivers, and a lot of it has to do with Eli's maturity as well.
No question, but I do think that leadership starts to kick in a little bit as well. When you have a young quarterback and veteran receivers, believe me, they're not listening to him. They're asking him to listen.
From the 30-yard line, and Manning goes down, and that is Israel Adonijah getting Chicago's first sack of the night. Well, Chris, who would have thought, as they work on Cutler on the sideline, here we are on the 3rd of October. If the Giants win tonight, there will be one undefeated team of the 32 in the National Football League, the Kansas City Chiefs.
Parity reigns supreme in the NFL, but this is, you know, it's what we have, but you still have to think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, with what they've shown so far without Ben Roethlisberger, now they get him back. If you're looking for a team, in my mind, that sort of sticks out a little bit early on, that would be the team.
They almost ran the table without Ben, but lost in the last minute today to Baltimore. Screen set up. Bradshaw gets taken down after a gain of just a couple. It'll be 3rd and 18. Anthony Adams making the tackle.
And Anthony Adams, a guy that Brian Urlacher just loves. He says that, you know, we've got a lot of good young players up there, and I don't want to say anything bad about anybody, but I know what Anthony Adams is going to do on every play. If there's a big play, a big moment in the ball game, I want him in there. I trust him that much. I know what he's going to give me.
3rd and 18. Harris is in for Chicago. Fake inside handoff, and this is Boss. And Boss brings it out to the 34-yard line, 6 yards short of the first down, and they'll punt.
It's kind of interesting watching Tommy Harris work up front. I've never seen a lack of effort in any of the things that he's done so far. But so many times when I've been watching on tape, somehow or another he ends up on the ground. There's Seibert just kind of throws him down and moves on down the field. But Tommy Harris, for this defense to be really good, he has to be really good.
And Dodge, the rookie from East Carolina, and that's a line drive, one hopper to Hester. And Hester will try to turn the corner, and the Giants were able to force him out of bounds. And you could hear the crowd holding its collective breath as Dodge sends a one-hop line drive to Hester. Normally lethal, not there. A lot on Tom Coughlin's mind, of course, lately. One of the things, probably paramount, would be special teams. Because you take a look at the problems the Giants have had, and you had this juggle by Renaud. He got away with that. You had Dodge, their 7th round draft choice, and he was able to get away with that. And then Tynes hooking one. And the Giants, their coverage hasn't been good. Their return game is not good. It's made a big difference.
Matt Dodge may not survive the night. I'm telling you, he may get cut at halftime the way he's going.
From the 35-yard line on first down. Cutler, and he's going to go down again, and the ball is loose. Tuck got him, and this is Forte who's able to cover it up. So again, they get the cut. The Giants putting enormous pressure on up front, and that's the 4th sack of Cutler in the first 19 minutes of the game.
Well, once again, trying to block a defensive end with a tight end, and Justin Tuck makes Brandon Manu Maliuna look bad. Jay Cutler's got to figure this out. The Bears and Mike Martz love holding the ball and letting their guys work down the field. But it's obvious at this point that will not work. You cannot hold that ball in that 7-step drop against this pass rush of the Giants.
And the forecast call for the possibility of rain, and we have some sprinkles right now. 2nd and 22. And Forte will get bottled up. No room at all. In the middle, it's Chris Canty having a good first half. It'll be 3rd down and 19. In the drizzle. There it is.
Well, maybe that's what Bears and Giants are supposed to do. It rains and a little cold, and bring out some great veteran football players and put them in the Ring of Fame and get out your ponchos and all that stuff.
Somehow we went from summer right to winter. We passed fall. Chilly tonight.
Welcome to the Meadowlands.
3rd and 19. Cutler stepping up. Look out from behind again. It's the sack fumble, and the Giants have it at the 29, and that's Osi Umenyiora. 3 sacks for him, 5 in the game. Deion Grant with the recovery.
It's not Frank Omiel's fault. This is good protection over here. He's going to force Umenyiora to run all the way by. Jay Cutler's got to get rid of the ball. I mean, that had to be close to 5-6 seconds that he was trying to hold that ball. Now, I could see it if he hadn't been hit yet, but he's been hit on almost every play. I can't explain it. Cannot explain it.
Umenyiora has been waiting all day for Sunday night, because we got him in a Sunday night game against Philadelphia in 07.
Wow.
And he had 6 sacks that night. He has 3 tonight. 5 already for the Giants. Another turnover. But the Giants, the good news for the Bears is they're only down 3-0. 29-yard line. First down. Bradshaw.
Well, there's Osi Umenyiora. He's in a good mood, and Jay Cutler, and he's not. And this has been a struggle. 5 sacks already. Ties his career high, and now all the Giants have to do is put him away. But remember, this is a Giants offense last week that had 471 yards of offense and only scored 10 points. So they've got struggles of their own.
Turnover is killing him. 2nd down and 8 from the 27-yard line. Bradshaw, good tackle coming up from the secondary is DJ Moore. Another nice play by the backup corner, filling the gap, knocking them down. And you know, Chris, coming into the game, speaking of the Bears defense and getting up slowly here as boss, what were they going to do without Matthias Kiwanuka? Well, they've done pretty well without him. Back to the offense.
They've done all right. Here's DJ Moore out here. And when Steve Smith couldn't get that 8th guy down, more and more in the league, one of the things that I really see is those wide receivers. Everybody talks about the 8th man in the box, all that kind of stuff. You better be able to get that guy if you want to run it.
Injury timeout for Boss. New Meadowlands Stadium, where it's 3rd and 10. Boss out of the game. Brandon Jacobs flanks Manning in the backfield. And you got a flag as Eli looked like he was waiting for the snap, moving the hands, and the Bears came across the line.
False start, number 76, offense, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Chris Snee reminds me, we were talking to Rich Seibert the other day, who the other guard. So he calls himself Soybert when he introduces himself. So I said to him, what are you? Are you Soybert or Seibert? He said, well, it goes back and forth in our family. I said, I'll tell you what we'll do. You make a good play, and you'll be Seibert. You get a penalty, you'll be Soybert. He says, if I get a penalty, call me Chris Snee. That penalty was on the real Chris Snee. 3rd and 15. Kevin Boss is back in the game. Manning over the middle, and then Boss put his hands up late, and Boss reaching for his shoulder as well. Miscommunication there. Henry Milton put the heat on Manning, and the Giants bring the kicking group in.
Yeah, one of the problems when you show that double-A blitz, watch Chris Snee take a half a step down here to his left because he's a little bit worried about Briggs coming in. Half step, and then Milton beats him around the other way. That's why the Bears do that. They like to show that pressure right up the middle, make those offensive linemen think inside, and allow their tackles to jump outside.
Giants could try a 52-yard field goal. Instead, it's going to be a punt. And Dodge will send that one into the end zone, and the crowd hates that because that's 14 yards net. Still 3-0. Umenyiora, 3 sacks tonight, 52.5 in his career. Dancing to the music.
Yeah, he's been dancing all night, and mostly around Frank Omiyale. Little night vision for you here. I kind of like this thing. Gives you a chance to look at Osi Umenyiora and the pressure he's been getting. Maybe we should call this thing good night vision, because for Jay Cutler, that's what it's been feeling like. People trying to knock him out all night long, and you can see Omiyale, he is just turning his shoulders and sprinting backwards, and nothing's very effective. I think you're going to see the Bears come out and start spreading this thing out and just allowing the ball to get out of Jay Cutler's hands a little bit. He cannot hold it at that 10-step drop.
From the 20-yard line, they give it to Forte, and he'll spring to the outside and pick up 7 yards. Terrell Thomas comes up to make the tackle. It'll be 2nd down and 3 as we approach the halfway mark of the second quarter.
Yeah, I think if you want to say there's a big question mark about the Bears, you know, they will get some different kind of weather in Chicago as we move along here. Are they good enough with this remade offensive line and their current running game to win games in poor weather? And this is a pretty good test of it here tonight.
2nd and 2, and now you've got Greg Olsen.
False start, number 82, offense. 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
And you know, Al, that's really a killer. You got a big run on 1st down. You're going to have 2nd and 2. So you can play pass, you can run, you can get your offensive line moving forward a little bit. And now you're right back to, you know, 2nd and 7.
From the 23-yard line. Short drop. Cutler gets protection this time, but the secondary does its job, and then Jay is forced to scoot out of bounds at the 21-yard line. He's run out by Cofield.
I tell you, Corey Webster's been doing a nice job so far. Jay Cutler was trying to get a quick one into Johnny Knox, but once again an Antrell Roll ran underneath that one. But for Jay Cutler, if I were Mike Martz, I'd say, listen, if I call a 3-step drop, you either throw it on 3 steps or throw it out of bounds. I can't have you scrambling around on those plays trying to turn something in or nothing into something.
Officially, that goes down as a sack because he was chased out of bounds. So that is the 6th sack of Cutler. 3rd down and 9. Jay, and you can see him starting to lose his footing on what's becoming slick turf, and that is Tuck there. And the Giants have now put him down 7 times.
Well, the tough part now is, and I saw this a little in the Dallas game too, is you're starting to see Jay Cutler's eyes drop. And here's Justin Tuck right here. But now you'll see Jay Cutler, he's no longer a believer. Once he starts to slip, now his eyes are coming down to the pass rushers, and you really cannot do that as a quarterback. He's just holding it way too long.
Maynard out of the end zone. That's a low liner that bounces on the Chicago side of the field and rolls out near midfield. Giants will get good field position. See if they can take advantage of it this time. Still only 3-0 New York. Empire State Building accentuating the skyline. The Giants now have the ball at the 47-yard line on first down. And Manning will go to the air. Has protection. Has to swing it to the outside. And Madison Hedgecock will get taken down out of bounds by Jennings after a very short gain. And Pisatino Samoa, second down.
All right, here we go with Tommy Harris in the middle again here. Good job by the Giants up front, sort of passing him off. He does hustle, get back into the ball. And for Tommy Harris, it's been a bit of an embarrassing time. His buddy Lance Briggs said that he has been humbled by the fact that he was sent to the bench and expected a fiery performance.
And look out from behind, and here comes Peppers, and he gets the ball loose, and he creates the sack fumble, and the Bears get the turnover.
I tell you what, somebody put a 10 over this circus. This is unbelievable.
And it's Peppers with the sack and fumble, and Urlacher with the recovery. Brian Urlacher with 5:07 to go gets the ball back for Chicago.
And for David Deal, it has been a tough year for the Pro Bowler that was a season ago. And for Julius Peppers, he said he would test the waters with both tackles. I think he's already made his decision about which side he's going to play against. He's going to find David Deal as often as possible.
Now Coughlin's going to challenge. Was his arm coming forward?
New York is challenging the ruling on the field that the ball was fumbled. We'll review the play. Timeout.
So Jeffers will take a look. Coughlin is the best at challenges. He's been successful almost half the time in his career. We're back, and this call figures to stand because as we look at it, Carl Jeffers making the call.
After review, the ruling on the field is confirmed. The ball was knocked loose prior to any forward motion by the arm. New York will be charged with their first charge.
Well, remember, if you're coming forward with it with the empty hand, and in this particular case, here's Peppers. He gets to the ball even before Eli starts to move the arm forward and dislodges the ball at the apex right there. And so it's pretty clear that it was going to be a sack fumble and a recovery by Urlacher, and it's Chicago's ball at the 48-yard line. So now Cutler.
Wow.
Unbelievable. This is incredible. Cofield. That is 8 sacks of Cutler. Chicago tonight, that's their 21st play, and they're averaging less than a yard a play.
Well, nobody can block in here. Here comes Cofield, and he's basically going to have 2 guys on him, and he just splits the difference between Olin Kreutz and Lance Lewis. And why they continue to throw the ball, I don't know. Before that play, they had 15 passes for -4 yards, and you can make it about -11 or 12 now.
Well, you saw Mike Tice, the offensive line coach. He has to be thrilled. Looks like a 9th was coming there. Here's Forte. And he pays the price at the 39-yard line. Chicago tonight has run 22 plays, 5 yards.
Wow. Lovie Smith, believe it or not, he likes this kind of game. You know, he likes the defense and the turnovers and sacks, and you know, so this is good for him. Well, this is just going to be a strange night, Al. This is just going to be one of those nights maybe decided by the punters.
Only thing Lovie can like is that the way the Bears have played, they're only down 3-0.
I tell you don't want to turn it over here now.
3rd and 18. Cutler flushed out again, going against the grain, and Cofield will run him out of bounds, and Cutler just flips the ball away. So that started at the 40-yard line. Did he step out before the 40? And I'm only saying this because statistically, that would be another sack.
Well, let's take a look at what's going on in the back end to make him hold on to the ball. Here's Johnny Knox trying to get down the field. He's covered. There's Devin Hester on the other side. And they got people all around him, and they just kind of waiting around. The Giants love seeing this four-man rush working like this.
Cutler actually got rid of the ball just before he stepped out of bounds. And this a short punt caught by Renaud. And they now change it, and they're going to say that was he stepped out of bounds before he threw it away, so that goes in as a sack.
A lot of pink in the house. Great cause, breast cancer awareness, and of course this whole month of October, breast cancer awareness month. The NFL does great stuff with that.
That's something you and I know Holly Collinsworth very involved in. Is to the outside goes Ahmad Bradshaw. And again, an ode to breast cancer awareness.
Yeah, I want to see as many people get screened as possible, and the NFL not just lip service to this cause, contributing their money and selling shirts and doing a lot of good stuff. A lot of ladies watching the NFL these days, and we certainly appreciate that and paying tribute to them.
Absolutely. 2nd down and 8. The ball is at the 29. Bradshaw. It's going to make it about 3rd and 4 with 2.5. And just to go back to Cutler again, that when you step out of bounds and you're behind the line of scrimmage and you're flushed out, it's a sack. So officially in this half, 9 sacks for the Giants.
You know, and kind of out of nowhere. You know, you would have thought with Mathias Kiwanuka, their top sacker, coming in, being injured and not here. Osi Umenyiora didn't even practice much this week because he had a bad knee. Some question whether he was going to play, and of course they have 9 sacks.
Rocky Bernard down as well with an injury. 3rd down and 3. And Manning throws, and then Smith bobbles it. Incomplete. And that takes us to the 2-minute warning, coming officially at the 1:57 mark. Giants 3, Bears nothing in a weird one at the Meadowlands. And here's the reason they drafted Dodge. As he gets that one down to the 10, there are flags down. And Hester is going to skirt the sideline and stay in bounds. And then Dodge is going to knock him down at the 45-yard line. But a flag is all the way back early in the play at the Giant 41 after a 56-yard boot. Well, it's holding against the Chicago Bears, and that's Earl Bennett. I think if you can read lips right there, 80, Earl Bennett against the Bears, and that's going to negate the big return for Devin Hester.
And that may have been the biggest kick of Matt Dodge's life. Sitting there to at least just hit it squarely, to have caught it and kicked it. I thought for sure they were going to kick that ball out of bounds the way the Bears are playing offense. The only way you can get beaten this kind of a game is if Devin Hester returns one for a touchdown.
Stats update. 4 total yards. The only good news statistically for Chicago is that official scoring is looking at that last Cutler play. And for the moment, they've taken it back to an incomplete pass, as he was going to get run out of bounds and he just flipped it in the air. So as they look at that, for the moment, he's only back to 8 sacks.
Put it on the highlight reel.
And now Cutler has to call timeout. So they're going to start this drive, such as it is, and he's forced to take a timeout.
Well, remember, the Bears are 3-0. You know, that's. I mean, you sit there and you watch it and you go, remember, this is one of 2 undefeated football teams here, but this may well turn it right here, how they do coming out of their own end zone.
We talked about, I mean, Chicago for so many years, it's defense and it's running the ball, and then they get Cutler, and then they bring Mike Martz in. And we talked about it before with Martz. I mean, look, with the Rams. Of course, he had Kurt Warner coming out of nowhere. He had Marshall Faulk. He had Torrey Holt. He had a lot of great parts, and he's done a nice job. But the downside is sacks and picks. This is the downside from the 5-yard line on first down. Cutler said get rid of it in a hurry, and the catch is made up at the 11-yard line as Greg Olsen gets taken down by Goff.
That was a good play call right there. Everybody in the house thinking they're going to run it off tackle. Olsen in the backfield as a fullback and sneak him out. That was an important play just to turn the momentum a bit.
Giants take a timeout. 8 sacks tonight, most in a half since October of 01. Tampa Bay had 8 against Pittsburgh, and that would have been in a game in which Lovie Smith would have been an assistant coach for Tony Dungy at Tampa Bay.
I told you like this kind of game.
But from that side, he would like it, not from this side.
He's got a few on his side too.
Record for a game is 12. 2nd and 3. And they flip it to Hester, and he's going to get a first down up to the 16-yard line. Excuse me, Chester Taylor up to the 16 and a first down.
Once again, nice job by Greg Olsen. He's had a good block and a good catch coming out here. And the Chicago Bears, they really don't believe in bringing fullbacks on the road with them. They use their tight ends as blockers, and we've seen Manu Maliuna and Olsen do a key block on that one. Here's the spread. Good luck.
Edwin Williams at right guard replacing Lance Lewis. They flip up front, and Cutler down again. Aaron Ross becomes part of a new sack exchange, and that sets a record for most sacks in a half. That's 9 officially.
Well, you look like you're going to get out of the half, and then here you go. But again, count. When you are going 5-man protection now, you've got to throw it. Even if you throw that ball out of bounds, when you hit that back foot, think of Kurt Warner. Think of the way he ran this team. You never saw Kurt Warner trying to pull it down and make a play. Here's the routes. Everybody out right there. You take Bennett. Right there. You've got to be able to see that. If they're blitzing, somebody is open. You got to hit that back foot and throw it. Even if you throw it in the dirt or in the 15th row, you've got to throw it. And when Jay Cutler is holding that ball, they're going to continue to blitz.
Bears making a big deal of hiring Mike Tice, the former Minnesota head coach, as their offensive line coach. What's he thinking right now?
They should have hired Mike Tyson. Golly. I mean, you know, okay, but that's not protection. You know, that's really not. That's a corner blitz. That's a slot blitz. That is not on the line. That is totally 1,000% on the quarterback to read it, see it, and get it out. That's why you go spread.
So it's 2nd and 17. The Giants just took a timeout there last. Taylor is the back. You Chicago.
If they don't run it here,
I'm taking a kneel down here.
That's correct.
It's the next thing. Taylor, he gets up to the 23-yard line. That kind of skews the stats because they had 11 total yards until then, and Taylor runs for 11, so that's 22 total yards.
I think Lovie is going to be thrilled to get out of here. Just down 3-0. Maybe they can go fix it at halftime. But this was the dispute. You know, Lovie's a defensive minded guy. Mike Martz is a shoot from the hip kind of guy. And right now they're getting shot in the hip.
Good news for the Bears right now is they don't have to run another play. Clock runs out. That's the end of a wacky first half. Giants 3, Bears nothing. Giants 3, Bears nothing. Al Michaels, Chris Collinsworth, Andrea Kramer at the new Meadowlands Stadium. Most sacks in a single game, a dozen, done 5 times. Most recently in a Sunday night game In the old stadium, Giants against Philadelphia tonight, Winston Justice had to come in as the left tackle. Umenyiora had 6 sacks. The Giants with 9 tonight, and almost a 10th on a play that was ruled an incomplete pass, as Cutler, almost in frustration, just flipped the ball into the bench as he was going out of bounds. Otherwise, that would have been another one. Robbie Gould kicks off. Boy, juggled, dropped, and picked up by Renaud. And he's able to bring that one back to the 31-yard line. Should be interesting what the coaches had to say. Andrea, fill us in.
Well, Al, walking off the field at halftime, Lovie Smith had no answers for the 9 sacks of Jay Cutler other than they have to block better. He said they've tried personnel changes, scheme changes, nothing worked. As for Cutler holding the ball too long, he said if you've been hit that many times, you'd be skittish too. As for what did Tom Coughlin say to his punter Matt Dodge at halftime, he said, I just encouraged him, told him to do a good job.
Well, we'll see what happens in the second half with him and with the Giants, whose defense has been great, but his offense has been sputtering as Bradshaw gets taken down by Julius Peppers. The Giants have now gained 97 yards in the game, and the Bears 22.
Look how athletic Peppers is here. Goes inside David Deal and then is still able to get back outside and catch Ahmad Bradshaw. This guy was a phenomenal basketball player, and I tell you, Lovie Smith thinks he is just the best. He said money changes some guys. It just made him better.
2nd and 11. And it's a nice screen set up with a good block thrown. And Hicks, working off that block off the screen, is able to turn it into a nice little gain. It'll be 3rd down and 3.
Rich Seibert, whatever his name is, going to come out here and make a really nice block. This guy can run for a big man. He used to be a tight end in college. They moved him to left tackle and finally to guard. He was probably as surprised as anybody when he originally made this New York Giants football team. A backup guard got injured in the final preseason game, and that's how he made it. He's been around for a long time.
Longer than any other current Giant. Been here since 01. 3rd down and 3 at the 38-yard line. And Manning is going to go deep from Manningham, and the pass is incomplete. Might have leaped a little too early. No flag. Coverage by Tim Jennings, the former Colt.
I tell you, Tim Jennings done a nice job coming in here. Zach Bowman got benched a week ago about in the 2nd quarter, and Jennings came in, made some big hits, and made some plays just like that. He also recovered that fumble at the end of the game that sort of turned it around against the Green Bay Packers, and it's showtime.
Showtime for Dodge again. Here is the rookie with Hester downfield. Not very deep, but at least he gets it to the corner and out of bounds, and the Giants will take that. Cutler, meanwhile, has not come out of the locker room yet. There's their backup, the veteran Todd Collins, and he's coming into the game. Well, we'll get the report on Cutler, who hasn't come out of the locker room, who took so many shots. Concussion is now what they're telling us, and Todd Collins, who's had a really wacky career, gives it to Forte. Collins has now been in the league 16 years, mainly as a backup. Was a starter with Buffalo in '97. And before we continue with him, where did Cutler get the concussion?
Well,
second to last play of the half.
Aaron
maybe
Ross
right there.
got him, and you could see his helmet just slammed to the ground at the end of that sack. Watch this. A little whip right down to the ground. That was it.
2nd and 7. The ball is at the 33, and Collins is going to give it to Forte. So Collins comes into the league. He's a backup in Buffalo. In 1997, a million years ago, he's the starting quarterback in Buffalo. Then he goes back to the bench. Then he doesn't take snaps for a couple of seasons. Then he had a moment in the sun at the end of the '07 season with Washington, with the Redskins. He comes in, he leads them to 4 wins. He leads them into the playoffs for Joe Gibbs against Seattle, and one of those big wins was in New York. But for the most part, here's a guy who's been in the league 16 seasons and has carried a lot of clipboards. 3rd and 5. Forte. Tuck, Umenyiora, and Deion Grant.
Well, Matthias Kiwanuka had been playing this role in the past. Now it's Justin Tuck sort of standing up here, and they're going to try and cut him. Roberto Garza does, but that's not going to work against an athlete like that. And Justin Tuck and Osi Umenyiora, their greatest danger tonight is that they run into each other, sacking somebody or tackling somebody.
And Brad Maynard sends it into the night sky, where Renaud takes it at the 16-yard line, and that is just perfect coverage right there. Corey Graham, number 21, stopping him in his tracks. Manning and the Giants back. A lot of great former Giants honored. Ring of Honor halftime. Andy Robustelli, saw him before. Y.A. Tittle here tonight. Of course, my old partner, Frank Gifford. The great gift. Michael Strahan flew from L.A. to be here. Phil Simms did the game in Pittsburgh today. He flew in after that game. Bill Parcells will go in. Bill doesn't leave that couch for it. Bill wasn't even at the game in Miami last week, so we know Bill is watching, and congratulations to him. Part of the Ring of Honor for the Giants unveiled tonight. Brandon Jacobs starts as the running back on first down. Fake to him and then the pass to him. And covering on the play is Pisatino East Samoa. And again with Jacobs unhappy with his role. The backup right now, and tonight he's carried the ball one time, Chris, and caught one right there.
Well, and you know, get sort of a rainy, wet night, and you think, well, if they're not going to play him tonight, when will they play him? And the surprising thing about Jacobs to me is that he's probably a better catcher of the football than Bradshaw is. I mean, he really has some pretty soft hands coming out of the backfield. I think most teams kind of think of him, he's going to run it when he comes in the game.
Sean Andrews is now the left tackle. And deals a spot. Jacobs taken down up to the 21-yard line. More on Brandon. Here's Andrea.
Well, Al Jacobs told me he's resigned to his role this season. He said he doesn't care that he's not starting, but he's frustrated he hasn't had the chance to be the physical back that he says he knows he can still be, and that it affects him mentally and rhythm-wise. He told me he has not asked for a trade, but he doesn't want to be back here next season under these circumstances, and he didn't think the Giants would want him back either.
Probably right on both counts.
I would say so.
3rd down and 4. From the 22-yard line. And Manning protected well, but then the pass is knocked down, and who else? Julius Peppers at 6'7", going up in the air, bats down passes. Of course, tremendous prowess at blocking field goal and extra point attempts, and gets up in the air to bat it down.
Yeah, Peppers going to come up, go back, then come back up, jump up. Just doesn't matter what he does. It doesn't matter what either one of these offenses do at this point. But I will say that sooner or later you keep kicking it to that guy.
First pass that Manning has had deflected at the line of scrimmages here, and again another short little punt out of bounds at the 42-yard line. 36-yard boot. Crowd should be happy. They shouldn't be booing.
He caught it.
Sue Olson, mother of the Bears tight end Greg Olson, a breast cancer survivor. And the Olson's from New Jersey, so Greg playing at home tonight, and his offense trying to get something going. And that's Forte, and Forte now has carried the ball 8 times for 20 yards. So that's 2.5 yards a carry. And coming into the game,
that's about it.
Yeah, that's about what they're averaging.
Yeah, it really has been. And because of all the movement on the offensive line, there really is no coordination. And talking to Matt Forte this week, he said, you know, I understand that our running game now is more geared towards my catching little passes in open space and out of the backfield than it is getting handoffs.
2nd down and 9. Collins throws over the middle. Hester, and Hester is able to get away from Boley and come close to picking up a first down, forced out by Kenny Phillips. And let's go back and look at Cutler's first half.
Yeah, and Todd Collins, nice job getting it out of his hand. But this is what was happening to Jay Cutler. He's looking left. He sees the blitz. He had to see Aaron Ross. There are 3 defensive backs, 3 wide receivers, which means if one blitzes, one's open. Earl Bennett was wide open, and I have no idea why Jay Cutler pulled it down. and he got a concussion out of it. You throw into the blitz. If you see a blitz left, you throw it that way because somebody is going to be open quick.
3rd and 1. Chicago has 2 first downs in the game. They still have 2. Jonathan Goff made sure he didn't get out of the backfield. 4th down.
Well, you just could have never imagined that Jonathan Goff would be a factor like this in the game. You thought that, okay, the Bears were going to come out and throw it all over the place. Their plan was they were going to pick on Jonathan Goff in pass coverage, and instead it's turned into 1-2-3 punt, 1-2-3 punt. I think 1 3rd down conversion so far in the game.
A total, the 2 teams have 6 first downs tonight. 2 for the Bears, 4 for the Giants. Here's a flag as Maynard's kick goes out of bounds at around the 17, 18-yard line. Referee Carl Chuffers will go into conference.
During the kick, holding number 23 of the return team. Half the distance to the goal. Timeout.
8:06 left in the 3rd. 3-0 Giants. From the 10-yard line, Bradshaw spinning around and tackled up at the 13-yard line.
Well, I tell you, you watch these Chicago Bears attack the backfield. They have more tackles for losses on running plays than any team in the league. And the way they do it is they really try to set hard edges on the outside. And then they just fly those 2 inside linebackers through there. And of course, Brian Urlacher, a former safety, and Lance Briggs, a guy, and Tino Isamoa, they just shoot straight ahead, so it's tough to run against.
2nd and 6. And that's caught by Smith, and he can't spin away from Bowman. Zach Bowman making sure he doesn't pick up the first down, and that'll make it a 3rd and short.
You know, now one of the tough things that you have to do for the Giants and Tom Coughlin is this is a team that has more turnovers than anybody over the past since Lovie Smith has been in there. So apparently now that one was the first
Well,
down,
they gave him a great spot on that. They put it at the 20-yard line. Looked like he was tackled a yard shy of the first down, and that's why the crowd let out that mock cheer as the Giants get their 5th first down. And there's a flag. That play clock had to run all the way down.
Delay of game. Offense. 5-yard penalty. First down.
I think the Giants initially thought they were going to have a 3rd and 1, and then they were a little surprised to have a 1st and 10.
Yeah, messed them up too. To get back to the point, though, just for a minute, you know, the Giants don't want to lose this game on offense either. Since 2004, Lovie Smith's defense has gotten 208 takeaways. Nobody has come close to that, and 27% of their points come off a turnover, so you can't hand them the game here.
1st and 15. And Bradshaw. Tino Isamoa.
I'll tell you, Julius Peppers is just a blur. He's just a blur. I don't know how you block him. He's 300 pounds, and he has moves like this. Watch this one. Jump inside, miss the fullback, jump back outside, just set it up for your guy. I don't know what they paid him, but it wasn't enough.
He goes back to Carolina next week. You think he'll be active?
I think.
He just said it was time for a change. Played out the string with the Panthers and moved on to Chicago. 2nd and 17. And that's caught up at the 29-yard line by Hakeem Nicks, and that is a first down. And tonight, that's a neon lights play. 21 yards.
Well, and they're starting to help up front. They brought Sean Andrews in to help with the protection, and that allowed time for this route to get down the field. That really was the key. They had 7-man protection up front, brought in the extra offensive lineman, and for the first time, Eli able to sit back and survey the field a bit. You see the Bears going after that ball. That's what they do.
21 yards on a 2nd and 17. Bradshaw, there's a big hole over right tackle, and that's another first down. Back-to-back first downs. Danielle Manning, the safety, comes up to make the stop at the 46.
Well, now we're starting to get some movement up front. Big Chris Snee coming off the ball, getting up to that 2nd level right here. And now when you start catching those linebackers on the other side of the line of scrimmage, they also Adam Coates with a good job filling in for Sean O'Hara. Now the Giants are starting to look like the Giants.
4:15 remaining in the 3rd. Manning time, pump fakes, finds the open man again at the 30-yard line. And that's caught by Travis Beckham, the number 2 tight end. Beautiful protection off the fake, and then Beckham somehow gets free amongst a quartet of defenders for a gain of 25, and that's 3 consecutive first downs for the Giants.
And because of the success running the football, it comes back directly. Watch Urlacher take a little step up, and all Beckham does is just get in behind him and wait. Urlacher's playing the run. Now he's going to try and get out late, but he only gets about 7 or 8 yards depth, and there it is.
From the 28, Bradshaw, another big hole, cuts it back inside the 10 and all the way down to about the 2-yard line. And Charles Tillman saves the touchdown. Rich Seibert pulling and leading the way, and what a convoy.
Anytime you see a guard turn the corner and start heading up the field, you know you got to play. Seibert's going to turn up the field, knock out Lance Briggs, and it was on. Starting to give this offensive lineman a chance to move down the field, and for Ahmad Bradshaw, you see why he's playing over Jacobs, that open field ability.
That's a 25-yard gain. This drive started back at the 10. Down the field rapidly, 1st and goal, Bradshaw. He gets stood up and then powers his way into the end zone for a touchdown. He ran into Manning. Manning looked like he had him stopped. He never stopped those legs from churning, and into the end zone he goes, and that wraps up a 90-yard, 8-play drive.
That was a thing of beauty right there. Giants fans going to love that one. I love Kareem McKenzie's block out here. Watch him get this seal. It's a hard block against a good athlete on the outside of Mark Anderson, and that's really what set it apart. But for Ahmad Bradshaw, he had a big fumble a week ago, and he's been running a little angry here tonight.
Tynes for the point after. And Peppers, of course, who is a guy who blocks all kinds of kicks.
Number 69, offense, 5-yard penalty. We're on the try.
Seibert, going to commit a penalty. That's not a bad place to do it on an extra point.
Bradshaw's not very big, but he is a physical, violent kind of back. He reminds me a little of the style of Adrian Peterson, and sometimes it gets him in trouble. You know, he wants to always fight for those extra yards. Sometimes they're able to get their hands in there and strip that football out.
And there's a flag again. You saw jumping up front. Kick was good if it's against the Bears.
Offside, number 90, defense. The extra point is good. The 5-yard penalty will be enforced on the kickoff.
All of a sudden, a drive broke out. A beauty for the Giants. 10-0 New York. Tynes his kick, and it's going to be down in the end zone. Manning wanted to come out with it, and Rashid Davis said, hold on. Back to the touchdown.
Yeah, it's just fun to watch somebody run with this kind of heart. Bradshaw's going to get hit early. Danielle Manning gets a good shot on him, and Chris Nee just kind of carries him into the end zone. And then, you know, they always say he's a slashing runner. There you go.
Straight from Fashion Avenue.
Yeah. Maybe the new craze.
Legal sell any merchandise. Ball of the 20. Chester Taylor starts as the running back. The fake, and then Collins to Olsen on a screen, and that's only good for 3 yards. 2nd and 7. Again, if you joined us late, Jay Cutler had a first half, as did the Bears offense, to forget. Suffered or sustained a concussion, and so Todd Collins, who's made 10 starts in a 16-year career and went 10 years between starts, but had a fantastic end of the 2007 season at Washington, has to lead the Bears, and he's down by 10.
But this is his kind of game. This short, read it, get it out. He can do this.
2nd down and 6. Oh, and his arm comes forward, and the ball is picked up by Taylor. The Giants are going to try to say an incomplete pass. Michael Boley put the heat on him, and if his arm was coming forward, he threw it to the ground, but it is incomplete.
Well, one of the reasons they bring that kind of pressure up the gaps like that is it forces those backs and tight ends to step up and try and make that play. But at some point, they've got to get settled on this offensive line. You can't allow that kind of immediate pressure to get to your quarterback.
3rd down and 6. With an empty backfield right now. Collins, and that's on the pocket, holds up, but the pass is short. Intended for Hester. 4th down.
Well, that's the most time that we've seen a quarterback have. Todd Collins had an immediate throw out in the flat. And if I had been watching what I had seen in the first half, I think I would have thrown it right away. Instead, he tried to throw it the other way. And that's not really his game at this age, to throw those 20-yard comebacks. And he came up short on it.
Brad Maynard's punt is a low liner. Giants will let it roll to a stop at the 32-yard line. Times Square, always bustling. So is New Meadowlands Stadium tonight. Flag down on the last play. 82,000 is the capacity here. Here's Jeffers.
Number 21 of the kicking team illegally went out of bounds, came back in, and was the first to touch the ball. That's illegally touching. That 5-yard penalty will be added to the end of the play. 1st down, Giants.
All right, that's Corey Graham. Bears bench, take a look at that as we did some visual eavesdropping here. What do you make of that?
They gave up a touchdown. But you could say anything. They drove it down their throat, you know. It's like, okay, I got it. It's not that hard.
Sure didn't see any smiley faces on that. From the 37-yard line on 1st down. Back to Bradshaw. Bradshaw now with 16 carries and 86 yards. A good many of those on that last drive. Mark Anderson makes the tackle, and we tick down toward the final minute of the 3rd quarter.
I'll tell you, the Bears defensive ends make a lot of plays. That time Mark Anderson coming down the line. You just wonder maybe if Eli is starting to think a little bootleg action here. Anytime they're crashing that hard to try and stop the run, you have some opportunities. Well, Brandon Jacobs and Ahmad Bradshaw over the years, they looked good early on. You always saw the huge numbers, and even 2008, a lot of big runs in that one. 5 yards per carry, 5.3. Jacobs starts to go down a little bit, 3.7 to Bradshaw's 4.8. So Bradshaw stayed pretty consistent. It's Jacobs that's sort of fallen off.
Clock down to 22 seconds, 3rd down and 4. And that pass is incomplete. intended for Hakeem Nicks, and the Giants will punt.
Well, this is really what you want now if you're the Giants. I mean, you're looking across the way, and you've got Todd Collins, and they haven't been able to move it 3 feet tonight. And so don't turn it over. Don't make it easy. Your defense is doing great. Just ride that horse for another quarter, and you're tied for first place in your division.
And Matt Dodge, high booming kick, bounces at the 5, and he still can't get a break.
I tell you what, he hit that one better.
He hit it much better.
Yes, he did.
That's why they drafted him. 57-yard boot, but only 37 net. 8 seconds remaining in the quarter. The Giants sacks tonight. All 9 of them.
I've seen year-end numbers look like that.
Yeah.
Everybody, feeding frenzy out there tonight.
And again, one of the storylines coming into the game, Matthias Kiwanuka, who had led the team with 4 sacks, not playing, and we're worried about him for the rest of the season, in fact. Giants do not have a sack in this half. Now they give it to Hester on the end around, and he's able to turn the corner and scoot out of bounds at the 31-yard line, and that will be enough for a first down with 1 tick left in the quarter. And as soon as they spot it, they'll wind the clock, and that will do it for quarter number 3. End of 3. It's the Giants 10 and the Bears nothing. And Sunday Night Football from the Meadowlands continues after these messages. 10-0 Giants against the unbeaten Bears, and Collins runs into Forte, and then it's going to be picked off by Jason Pierre-Paul. Flag is down, and Forte will knock him out of bounds. So the rookie draft choice, number 1 out of South Florida, it was the middle linebacker Goff coming in. Collins also ran into the back, and let's see if it's going to be roughing the passer. Collins did take a hit after.
There's 2 fouls by the Giants on the play.
That ends that
Unnecessary
mystery.
roughness, late hit number 54 after the interception. That penalty is declined. Personal foul, roughing the passer, number 54. Contact to the head of the quarterback. That penalty is accepted. 15 yards, automatic first down.
That's an exacta you don't want to hit.
No, it's not. And this play started to fall apart when Matt Forte got in the way of Todd Collins, and no question about it. One of the things that happens to pass rushers is they want to get their arms up sometimes, but that was just helmet to helmet. But watch Matt Forte pre-snap here, saw the blitz coming from Antrell Roll, tried to jump across the face of Todd Collins. Watch him come this way and run into Todd Collins and basically create this issue to start with.
And then another foul after the Pierre-Paul interception. So it's 1st and 10. The ball is at the 46-yard line. And Collins will throw, and he throws that behind Olsen, who is able to adjust, looking toward the sideline to haul it in at the 35-yard line.
Boy, what a throw that was by Todd Collins. You're talking about a veteran look here. Watch him working against Boley here down the field. Back shoulder all the way. Perfectly executed. It's amazing they could have that kind of timing. I guarantee you Todd Collins hasn't thrown that ball to Greg Olsen maybe once since training camp ended.
That is a great point. Foley's got him completely covered on the inside. Collins goes to the outside. The Bears all of a sudden with a 19-yard gain have it at the 35-yard line, and now Collins has to just dump it off over the middle, and that pass is incomplete with the pressure on him. 2nd and 10.
Well, we have seen some better pass protection out of the Chicago Bears, and mostly it's been Matt Forte who's gone over and helping Frank Omiyale as best he can over here, because obviously they couldn't just let Osi Umenyiora take out all their quarterbacks, and forcing Osi to kind of use those bull rushes now instead of his speed.
Second down 10. Play fake, buys time. And then the pass is picked off at the 8-yard line. Deion Grant with the interception for the Giants.
If I'm not mistaken, that's the same exact play they blew a week ago.
You would be correct. 10-0 Giants. Starts to drizzle again after the interception on the pass intended for Olsen. Deion Grant, one of the new Giants. They had a lot of problems at safety last year, so they picked him up. 9th year in the league out of Tennessee. Ball is at the 8-yard line as Manning starts this drive with a roll to the right off the fake. And then Smith is able to make the catch for a gain of 9 yards on the far sideline. It'll be 2nd down and 1.
Steve Smith, really a terrific route runner, and you'll see him finish this over here on the end of that play. A lot of receivers will stop coming back to the ball right there. There's Julius Peppers, who's been a little quieter, and the deal happy to get the help from his back too.
2nd and 1, and Bradshaw, he escapes a would-be loss in the backfield. He broke away from Peppers. Peppers would have had him down for about a 3rd and 4, and instead he spins away and moves the chains.
Boy, Julius Peppers with this inside move has just been wearing people out, coming in here off the edge, and they just can't get a body on him. I mean, he makes everybody miss coming through, but that time he happened to miss the tackle. Pretty amazing. It's not often you can see a guy make one guy miss, but he has consistently made 2 blockers miss pretty much all night in the running game.
2 minutes into the 4th quarter on 1st and 10, and that pass is low and hits the ground. Going back to that Todd Collins pick, Chris. Of course, we talked about the fact Collins has barely played. I mean, even though he's been in the league for so long, that's the first interception that Collins has thrown since 1997.
Get out of here. Is that what we ought to show it then? If it's that sort of historic throw, here it is. You know, last week Jay Cutler threw an interception on this same sort of middle read route, and the discussion was, should Greg Olsen have gone underneath that dropping linebacker last week? And he looked a little hesitant at the top end of that. Of course, Todd Collins would have heard that conversation, but certainly had no experience throwing that ball down the field there.
And that is off the ground, incomplete.
That was a huge break for Eli right there. Huge. Brian Urlacher got there, got a hand on the ball. That thing was floating around like the one earlier in the game, and the Bears just unable to convert it. They had this one. Another great tip ball going straight up in the air, and somehow that lands in open field. You saw Urlacher, he was like, that's got to be a touchdown coming back our way, and they need a break like that.
Said before, even though Manning's had some deflected interceptions this season, he hadn't had a pass deflected at the line of scrimmage until tonight, and that's 2. 3rd down and 10. Pressure on, set up the screen, and Bradshaw will come close to getting the 1st down, depending on the spot. Seibert again leading the way and set up perfectly because the heat was on and Manning waited and hits Bradshaw, and they had a lot of running room.
Well, this time they bring the slot blitz again off the edge. DJ Moore is going to come in here, and you can't have a more perfect call than this. Pressure to your right, screen to your right, and look out. Chris Snead down the field leading the way along with Rich Seibert. That's a big 1st down.
And Bradshaw writhing in pain on the ground after that last play and grasping his left ankle. So that means Jacobs. And Jake, look at the fumble and the penetration that time. And that was Anthony Adams who creates it, and the Bears get a tremendous turnover.
I told you about Anthony Adams early on, and he takes advantage of the replacement, Adam Coates. This thing really never came close. You're going to see Adams breaking through the backfield. And Jacobs, I think, had his eye on Anthony Adams.
Right.
And just peeled away a little bit from that handoff. And as he did that, his arms closed down without the ball, and there's the break that the Bears were looking for.
Chris Harris recovers. Can they capitalize? The Giants then bat the first pass away. And that's Dave Tollefson. Let's see if we can check out Jacobs' eyes as he's taking the handoff, and he knows that Adams is right there.
Well, let's take a look. Anthony Adams coming in there, and you could see Eli trying to really stretch to get that ball, because really Jacobs was breaking away before the handoff was made, and it just created the confusion. You can see he clamped down his hands before he had the ball in his belly.
Second turnover for the Giants tonight. Now Forte with some running room. He takes the ball to the 22-yard line. Remember, Bradshaw shaken. Jacobs back on the bench after the fumble. 3rd down and 3 with 11.5 to go.
And they've got to calm Brandon Jacobs down. We've already seen earlier this year he got mad, threw his helmet, apparently accidentally threw it in the stands in Indianapolis. But this game may now ride on his shoulders as they try and run it out with the lead.
3rd and 3. And that pass to the outside is too far. Forte covered on the play by Michael Boley. And so they'll bring in one of the best kickers in the league in Robbie Gould to try to make it a 7-point game.
I'll tell you, Michael Boley has been a huge pickup. When you get into these kinds of games against passing teams and really good receiving backs like they have in Matt Forte, to have a linebacker on your squad that can cover those guys man-to-man is huge, and he was in perfect position that time.
Robbie Gould, 52 consecutive regular season field goals from 40 or less. This one is 40 and make it 53. So they cash in on the Jacobs fumble, get 3 points, make it a 1-possession game again. They finally get on the board, do the Bears. 10-3 Giants. Robbie Gould. Off 7-yard line. Darius Renard up to the 30-yard line. Giants have it. 10:52 left. New York by a touchdown. As Manning throws, with Bradshaw back in the game, that's caught by Nix. Bradshaw and Jacobs. There it is with the now technically that fumble where Jacobs loses the ball, it's charged to Manning because they always attribute it or debit the quarterback on a quarterback halfback exchange. So it's a Manning fumble, even though the man on the left was slightly complicitous.
They give the quarterbacks credit for everything.
A 2nd and 2 at the 38-yard line. And that's Nix, and Nix was across what would have been the first down line and then backs up and gets hit there, and that's going to spot the ball about a half-yard away from a first down.
Tell you this, Akeem Nix has some sticky hands, doesn't he? This was some catch. He comes in, looks like he's comes to a stop and has to reach back out, catch it, and is still making a move. The thing that I really like about him is he's making moves as he catches the ball, and that really makes it tough on those defensive players because they're sort of watching the ball too, and pretty impressive.
Well, Jacobs is back in now on 3rd down and 1. Come up in a tight formation, strong side left. There goes Jacobs, and there's Jacobs to the 43-yard line. Contact at the line of scrimmage, and then he plows through, tackled by Harris on a first down.
Tell you, then you're starting to see some of the power package here. Sean Andrews comes in over here at the tight end, and watch him cave this down. This is what they've been looking for. They think Andrews ultimately could end up being a guy that could play tackle for them, and this was kind of close. Let's see if Jacobs, and he almost lost the ball again.
Toss to Bradshaw. Bradshaw able to get to the outside and turns that into a nice gain as the ball will get spotted just short of a first down, and Bradshaw has now gained over 100 yards. That's 106 on 20 totes.
Yeah, we were talking about it. Julius Peppers likes to crash down on those runs, so that's that little quick flip to get it out there. And there may be one defensive end in the game that can run down Ahmad Bradshaw on that play, and it was necessary.
20 carries. He had 20 on opening day against Carolina, tying a career high. Eclipses it here with a first down to the 45-yard line. Let's check in with Andrea.
Well, we're not getting any more official word from the Bears about Jay Cutler's concussion, but I texted General Manager Jerry Angelo, who told me that Cutler had symptoms at halftime and they ruled him out. I asked him if Cutler would travel home from the team with the team, and he replied, "I believe he will."
All right, so I'm sure there he is right there. We think that's exactly where it took place toward the end of the first half on the sack by Aaron Ross. And the Bears will next play in Carolina. We'll go to Charlotte next Sunday. Manning slides to his left, hits Nix, and that's another 9-yard gain. So the Giants picking up nice little chunks of yardage here and using the clock very effectively halfway through the quarter.
Yeah, and the Bears really have no choice now but to start bringing their safeties down and playing some single coverage. You'll see Chris Harris now starting to creep down to help against the run, and that puts these corners out there one-on-one, and that's not really what this team is built to do. They prefer to not put that kind of pressure on their corners. Good read by Eli, realizing that now the Bears are changing up a bit.
Second down and 1. Bradshaw through the middle, and the ball is taken away by Bowman. Bowman strips him, and Chicago has it. And you could see him coming from behind, and that's all the Bears do in practice. Strip, 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 fumble, turnover.
Wow, what a turnaround. That was some play at the end of this one. And Al, we talked about it earlier. You can see Bradshaw, he's thinking about it. He just does not see Bowman. They practice that. That is no accident. Those punch outs, Charles Tillman does it all the time. Urlacher got one last week to save that game against the Packers.
So the Bears get it back at their 1. Whereas Lovie Smith preaches turnovers, Tom Coughlin has always preached ball security. So in the first time in his 15-year career as a head coach, 3 or more giveaways in 4 consecutive games. That's 13 this season. And can Forte get out of the end zone? He can. And we go back to the fumble when it looked like it was going to be a touchdown. The next thing you know, it's Chicago's ball.
And the thing that Bowman did was he gave him no idea that he was there. He didn't try to tackle him first to tip it off. And watch Bradshaw. I think he's looking up at the video screen, and all of a sudden he just didn't see that in time.
Nope.
And for Bradshaw, the second straight week with a big fumble inside his own 5-yard line.
2nd and 10. Bears have that one knocked down at the line of scrimmage. That's Dave Collison, and that's his second back down in this half.
Well, there was no choice, but Barry Cofield got some immediate pressure, and Todd Collins had to get that sucker out of there. Just splits the gap. See, you just can't. The Bears are just unsettled up front. Too many changes, too many different things. Lucky to get away with that one.
Mike Tice will have his hands full, the offensive line this week. 3rd and 10. They're going to need some breathing room for their punter, if nothing else. And Forte is not going to give them that room because that Giant defense stops them again. Jonathan Goff is first in, and so it's going to be a very short snap and a real fast kick.
I tell you, Perry Fuel's defensive team, they were good last week, even though they gave up some yards, but this week they've been incredible. 0 for 12 now on 3rd down conversions are the Chicago Bears. 0 for 12. And that's the only reason right now the New York Giants are winning this game.
Bears have 5 first downs in the game. And Maynard gets the kick away. Fielded by Renaud at the 40-yard line. And he brings the ball back to the 32-yard line. So the Giants, great field position with 5:21 and trying to take some time off the clock. Ahmad Bradshaw is the running back here. And Manning is going to air it out. Underthrows it, but adjusting and making the catch is Nix. He's going to try to crawl into the end zone, but he was down at the 1-yard line. Adjusted on the coverage by Zachary Bowman, and that's 30 yards and a first and goal.
Well, first things first. Watch Ahmad Bradshaw here with the blitz pickup. Last week he cut a guy. This week he goes high, and Eli has time to throw it down the field. And there he is again. Stick him on those hands, baby. That's a heck of a catch. So for Bowman, one good, one bad. Look at this guy. He is, I really enjoy watching him play. He has a bit of magic catching the football.
First round pick last year. Here's Jacobs, and Jacobs pulls his way into the end zone for a Giants touchdown.
Now, Brandon Jacobs, I'm sure a little angry himself. Good double team. McKenzie with a nice block inside, and for Jacobs, we've been waiting for a moment like that. He needed one.
Lance Briggs couldn't stop him. Times with the extra point, so the Giants get away with the turnover. The great thing about that turnover is pin Chicago at the 1. Then the short kick, good field position, pass to Nix. Jacobs takes it in. It's a 14-point game. Offensive coordinator Kevin Gilbride, and off Manning's shoulder is Sage Rosenfels, who came over to be the backup quarterback from Minnesota. And a nice drive there, short, quick drive after the turnover, and the Giants with now 325 yards total in the game to 77 for the Chicago Bears. It's fielded at the 12-yard line. Daniel Manning brings it back out to the 28-yard line.
Now let me just maybe tell you a little bit about, look at some of the yards by quarter, the old -1 there, not so good. But Jay Cutler, who played in the first half before Todd Collins came in averaging almost 10 yards per attempt. I mean, this is an offense that was really good coming in here, which was #1 in the NFL. He had already thrown for 870 yards, and they can't even convert a third down, not one in the ball game. What a brilliant performance by the Giants.
And again, with a defense that was minus a couple of very key figures tonight.
Now Todd Collins down.
Oh yeah, and Collins is really shaken up as Boley came in. And Caleb Haney is their #3 quarterback, and with Cutler out with a concussion and Collins clearly in distress right now, that is the most likely scenario as Haney gets loose on the sideline.
Well, the Giants obviously with no fear now. They're going to send Michael Boley off the slot here, and Todd Collins obviously never sees him. And it has been an ugly night for Chicago Bear quarterbacks.
So it'll be 2nd and 5, and Haney, who's thrown 7 career passes, all of them last season, reties the laces. You know, Chris, it's so funny, from one week to the next, the Bears come in. We talked about the fact they were fortunate. I mean, Calvin Johnson with the premature celebration on opening day. They played a very effective and efficient game against Dallas to win that one. Last week they have the 18 penalties for Green Bay, and they win the game, and they get a lot of breaks. And they come into this game saying, you know what, we're better than that, even though they're 3-0. And look at concern right now on the faces of the Chicago staff, but now Collins is able to at least sit up. Take a look at the jolt he takes here from behind. That's Boley.
And oftentimes, just like Jay Cutler, the hit's one thing, but how your head hits this turf is often the other. And a lot of times when you get your arms pinned like he did there and you end up falling down, there's no way to keep your head from whipping and hitting the ground.
So Haney in his 3rd season out of Colorado State, and he's been the number 3 quarterback, which means you're in effect inactive unless you have injuries to the first 2, and that's the case right here. And you can come in the 4th quarter as well. It looks like Collins may be trying to gather himself and get back into the game if he can. 2nd down and 5 now. And Haney will throw it over the middle, and that would figure, huh? It's Johnny Knox, and he's been silent tonight, and he makes the catch at the 42-yard line.
Caleb Haney looked over to the sideline like, are you coming in to get me? And he said, heck no, that's the first down we've had in 2 hours. And there's Johnny Knox, who Perry Fewell said he thought was the #1 Bears threat. And of course, the snap count, nobody's even heard
False
Caleb
start,
Haney
number
do
78
one.
offense. 5-yard penalty. 1st down.
Kevin Schaefer. So 26-yard pass play. And then the false start here to make it 1st down and 15.
And you know, sort of the frightening part about this for Bears fans, obviously you want first and foremost to be concerned about the health of Jay Cutler, but with the concussion concerns in the NFL now, will he be able to play next week, the week after? It's hard to know.
1st and 15. That's, you know, Chris, we were talking about the Bears come in, they want to show they're as good as their record. And now all of a sudden you've got some questions tonight where everybody's got to go, well, wait a minute, what happened to this offense? What's going on here? What are we doing?
Yeah, especially, you know, when you consider that they just got finished playing Green Bay and Dallas, 2 of the very best defenses in football, and they beat Dallas down there and made Dallas's defense look a little vulnerable, which they very rarely do. And then to come back up here against the Giants defense that looked better last week, but you wouldn't have said with some of the injuries were, you know, top of the line. And then this.
2nd and 15. That's caught by Olsen, but that will be only a short gain because that was thrown into a lot of traffic. And that'll make it 3rd and long.
But you think about Perry Fewell and the job that he's done now for the New York Giants. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but Mike Martz, you anticipated, okay, it's going to take him a little while to grow into this offense. And here's a guy that was the head coach of the Buffalo Bills for a while, thought he might have gotten the job the following year as well, didn't. And for the New York Giants, with all the problems they had defensively a season ago, to get this kind of turnaround now in their defense has to be exciting.
3rd and 10. And that's exciting as well. That's Justin Tuck with the sack. And for Perry Fewell and his defense, and the story we haven't touched tonight is that Fewell could have been the defensive coordinator of either of these teams. Lovie Smith talked to him about coming to Chicago last year.
Well, he's that good. There's Justin Tuck, and this isn't like an immediate protection's not too bad, but Bears quarterbacks need to get a clock out there on the practice field that goes to about 2.5 seconds, and if you don't throw it before the buzzer goes off, just anticipate a headache.
Have to go for it on 4th and 18 at this point in the game. And Haney will throw, and if that pass is complete, it barely matters because they're going to turn the ball over on downs to Earl Bennett, and the Giants will take over on downs near midfield.
Well, there were a lot of great defensive players honored out here tonight at halftime, and they have to be proud of what they've seen. The way the Giants ran the football tonight, the way they took over the game with physical play on their defense. This was the kind of game that Tom Coughlin was hoping for. This is what you think about when you think about Giants football.
Hoping for and really needed because it's New York, and you know what would have happened. They would have lost 3 in a row. They're going on the road next week. They're going to Houston. They come back to play Detroit. Then they go on the road for 2 more to Dallas and to Seattle. Chicago has all of its timeouts to use them on defense. And Bradshaw gets stopped Tuck knows how many sacks, holds up both hands. He said, yeah, we got 10. That's right.
It was really something. And I tell you, it has been not just the front end, the back end has done the job tonight as well. The additions of Antrell Roll and Deion Grant and Kenny Phillips coming back at the safety position, they have really improved this roster. I think that the play of those safeties has made the biggest difference in my mind.
Go to the 2-minute warning. The Giants 17 and the Bears 3. You know, one thing about Lovie Smith, like most head coaches, he's very competitive. He's also a realist. He's in a situation, he could have taken all of his timeouts. It's a 2-possession game. He had the 2-minute warning as well. He chose not to take them on the other side of the break.
He was out of quarterbacks.
He's out of quarterbacks. He's out of offense. And in effect, they get 2 chances, none and none.
Look out.
And now 3 chances, none, none, and none. Brandon Jacobs around the corner, run out by Danielle Manning.
Yeah, this is an offensive line that maybe wasn't quite as good early on, but they did come on here late. Bear Pasco from the fullback position has played a really nice game on that long run by Ahmad Bradshaw. He had the key block on that one as well. And Madison Hitchcock has, especially the first game of the year, wasn't so good. This may become a bit of an answer now for their running game. Maybe Bear Pasco comes in and makes them a little better.
Jacobs lost the ball at the end of the play. And gets back on it on the 5-yard line with 1.5 minutes. And Lovie's just going to let the clock wind down. It'll be 1st down and goal.
Getting a little slick with the running game now. Watch Kevin Boss come over here and kick out Julius Peppers, and Brandon Jacobs stayed right on the hole. So even defensively now, they've finally given it up. Their offense gave them nothing to even hope for tonight.
And, you know, Coughlin knows that Lovie's not calling timeouts. The game is over, even though it's a 2-possession game with all the timeouts, and the Giants are just going to take a knee right now. He says, hey, look, you know, I respect what you're doing, and I'm not going to pour it on right now. Some of the crowd boos. I don't know why, because everything that they might have had in mind has already been taken care of.
It was a tremendous. You're the worst. You are the worst.
Well, I have to get it in, right? You understand when the New York crowd boos in a situation like this, it always has something to do with you know what. But tonight it really doesn't.
Wanting to win the game. That's exactly right. Giants football tonight, though.
Yep.
And for the Bears, still 3-1, still atop the division, but it feels a little different right now,
doesn't it? And the Giants go to 2-2, which is the same record of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Redskins. And Dallas 1-2 with a bye. Fantastic defensive performance tonight by the Jets. 17-3 New York over Chicago.